me a little bit better, I do come from the teaching background. I taught for charter school, part of CPS, for almost 10 years. That was my forte. So I have a bachelor's degree in computer network engineering, and I use it to teach networking classes. So this bringing me back to this whiteboard, I almost didn't do slides. I told Brian, I was like, I ain't got no slides. I'm gonna just use old school whiteboard, and take notes, pay attention. None of this taking picture stuff, right? So I'm just really excited to be here. I know some of you guys know me from the dance world as well. Taught that for a long time. Just changing the subject in my life. Changing the subject. I have some superpowers to be able to teach. Some of you guys have been in my licensing class, but God has put a gift in me to be able to teach others, to be able to explain things in a way that sometimes I'm like, man, I don't know where these words came from, but I'm glad they're making sense to the person across the table. I'm glad they're making sense to somebody in this business. And so I'm super excited to be here today just to bring you one of the most old school money-making systems. It's ABCs of money today that I use personally to build my business. And only this I use, okay? So there's, what's the phrase? There's many ways to skin a cat. That's just kind of awkward for me to say. I don't really kill animals, but that's disgusting. Heard it from my best friend Juan. But there are many ways of doing things in this business. So what I'm going to be talking about today is a KTP presentation, which is called 3 Ways Money Grows. And so now there's gonna be, like, some of you, probably half of the room is like, oh my God, really? Like, are we gonna go over this again? Like, we know this already? And then some of you are like, oh my God, I'm really excited. I haven't heard this one in a long time because I've been ingrained with the crusade over and over and over. That's the only one that I know. But listen, my wife and I, in our base, we hit marketing director in 3 of the hardest months in the entire year, which were between November, December, and January. Mind you, we started 2 months prior than that cycle, so we started like October, November, December. So we're facing Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all these New Year's holidays, and we missed it twice, back to back. And we finally hit it after that in January. And so what we used was 3 ways money grows. Now, a cool thing that we did was that, I'm a whiteboard. Not a white boy, but a white board person. You saw my cousin, we laugh. I used a sticker paper, a sticker whiteboard that I put on my notebook. Mind you, this was before Zoom. So I put and those of you who have been in Good Life with me, we know that we did 3 Ways Money Grows to the T. So the whiteboard, I stuck this piece of paper on my notebook on the inside cover, and every presentation that I did, even BMPs, RIs, anything, I would flip over my notebook and I had a dry erase pen marker, and there goes 3 Ways Money Grows. So I got really good at this. It's really fast and really convenient, but I'm going to show you how to do it the way that I do it. All right. I really eliminated the extra financial jargon that most people don't know, right? They don't understand that talk. So we have to, I don't want to say water it down, but we got to bring it down to a layman terms, right? To really make it personable. Make it relatable, like, oh my God. If you can make somebody laugh, cry, angry, or feel some type of emotion, they're always gonna remember you for that. Okay, so gentlemen, if we piss off our wives, they're always gonna remember us for that because we've made them angry, and that is stored in the prefrontal cortex. Theirs is stronger than ours, okay? So let's use our superpowers. So moving on. 3 Ways Money Grows, we know that. Such a teacher, right?
Oh my God.
Agents will be able to. We used to use SWABOT, right? In my classroom, you will walk in and it'll say SWABOT. Students will be able to. In this case, we're changing it. We will be able to explain. So sometimes we can't hit a goal until we know what your target is, right? Your overall picture. What will I be able to get from this class today or training, right? Effectively explain the 3 Ways Money Grows. KISS. What does that mean, y'all?
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Silly, right? Stupid, right? So you're gonna zip it, lock it, put it in your pocket. So I did this with my 8-year-old, and she got this, okay? She understood. Zip it, lock it, put it in your pocket, like boom, and whatever I take away here is just, all right. So number 1, one of the ways that your money grows is in a fixed format, okay? So we're gonna discuss this. Fixed. Related to banks, CDs, savings and CDs, or we can just take all your money and throw it in a big mattress back there. That's a line from Liar Liar, okay?
Right.
Yeah. So a fixed way. So when we look at the word fixed, it means it doesn't move.
Yeah.
Okay?
Stationary desk.
It doesn't move. But because it doesn't move, we can assume that it's very what? Safe. Okay, it's safe. It ain't going nowhere. Okay? So, okay, I guess that's okay.
That's good. Yeah. It's okay.
Okay.
We got it.
Safe, your money doesn't move.
I like that.
It has minimal growth. It don't move. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
My hair, it don't move. Okay? It don't move. Okay? That's what I'm on today. If I can make you laugh, you will never forget that this money will not move. Okay? You all remember my heart? This is my sister from one of the misses. She was in a rush. But let me tell you, them edges were on point. Okay? She was safe. Them curls was not moving. She went from got to be to the Gorilla Glue, and she said, my hair, it don't move. So just like your money in the bank, it's safe, it doesn't move. You can guarantee that the Gorilla Glue is gonna hold that tight. But can she put some more weave on this? No, she probably won't even get any new grow on this thing. Impossible, right? Same thing when you're talking about fixed products in the bank. They're just gonna be very safe, very well put together. It's gonna look cute. Your edge is gonna be on point, but guess what? It's gonna have very minimal to no growth. Okay? Now know your audience, please, because if you're using my superpowers with somebody that might get offended by this, I personally wouldn't care because it's just educational purposes only, right? And I'll laugh, but it may not come across as the same for everybody. Okay? Wendy, I probably wouldn't say use this, okay? But kidding. See, I can get away with stuff like that, right? Kidding. All right, moving on. Number 2, variable. When you see the word variable, I tend to think the color red. I tend to think something that moves. And I even came up with this word. It might be a word, I'm not sure, but something that varies, something that changes, right? When you're thinking variable in a science experiment, it's something that you're going to change within that experiment. So we're talking about stocks, mutual funds, etc. Anything that's involved in what we call the market. Now, those are words that people, I wouldn't say most people, but I would say, yeah, let's say most people wouldn't really understand. They've heard of it, but they don't really know how it works. So when we talk about variable, it's put your seatbelt on. Okay? It's put your seatbelt on.
Put
Come on.
seatbelt on.
Humble part.
Right here.
Yeah, all the fighters. Let's say put your. No, put your seatbelt on, okay? Because in a variable product, it's gonna look like a lot of fun. It's gonna look like, oh my God, I'm gonna have the time of my life. Very similar to what a roller coaster is like, right? So if you go to Six Flags, it's gonna be, you're gonna get on this Raging Bull, and you're just super excited when you're on that like ramp up. You're like, oh yes, you know, we're going up. I'm super excited on the way up. So a variable product is very much like that. It has a lot of good potential growth. You're gonna get some good money out of it. However, it's risky. So little do you know that Raging Bull has the steepest, highest drop, you know, and it's inevitable. Once you're on and your seatbelt's on, there's like, excuse me, sir, can you
Can't get
let me
off.
get my money back? I don't want to be on it. Like, no, you're on there. You're gonna ride it. You're gonna ride this out. So once you have that, once you're in here, there's no stopping. You have to go through this roller coaster until it ends, and hopefully you wind up back in one piece. So once you finish this roller coaster, what happens? At the end, you wind up being back into that level state where you started, and that's potentially what can happen in a variable product. You have a lot of fun with it, and this roller coaster goes up, goes down, it goes up, it's sideways, over and under, but then where do you wind up back? In your starting point. And sometimes this whole roller coaster can be a process of over 30 years. And so when you think you're getting ready to retire right here and you're high, this happens and you're like, wait a minute, I have to go back to work to collect receipts at Walmart or at Costco or at Sam's Club because I ran out of funds, right? That's a big deal. Now, here, number 3, indexed, okay? Index, you're thinking life insurance, annuities, big jargon words. Let's not overemphasize that. Index, a hybrid, a combination of the two. All right, if you've ever seen Underworld, you know, half werewolf and half vampire, a combination of the two, all of the superpowers, right? The Trinity, right? Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, all in one, right? That's right. However you want to explain this. This is a very confusing graph, but if we break it down very easily for people to understand, they're gonna say, oh, I get it, okay? So now we have the best of both worlds. I said what I said, which is you do get, your principal is safe, Your money is in a product that is safe, and it does have growth. So in comparison to the other two that we just went over, we can see that the index is that green line. So let's talk about the pros and cons. Like we have that red line is the stocks, the variable. I always think red. Look at how in this year, it's outperforming my green line. So when you're talking to someone that has a variable product, 401k, 403b, some type of retirement plan from their job, they can very much so beat their chest and say, my product is outgrowing your product. Right. And I can say, you're 100% correct. You are 100% right. But let's think long term here. You're beating me now. In this case, right, the banks are down here, I'm slow and steady. But what happens here in this big drop? In this case, we're talking 98 to 2012. These are just those current stats. There's a huge drop. What happened to my money? I just leveled out. So I'm in a vehicle that says, hey, I get to keep what I earned while you just drop like thousands and thousands of dollars. We're talking about you went from 100. I know that's right. I went from 136,000 to 78,000 in a variable product. Well, right here, your 136 was beating my 125, but guess what? When you went to 78, I stayed at my 125. So who's beating who now? So the cool thing about this is that when this starts to grow, the market starts to grow, so does my product. But I grow from where I left off. So there's never an opportunity for you to catch back up. So yeah, gloat when you're in the high roller coaster, but when that drop comes down on the raging bull, I'm on the little bumblebee ride, like I'm good. You know, like I'm on the little train, like I'm good, homie, because I can see what's gonna happen toward the end. Okay, so this vehicle, yes, we do flirt and hang out with the market, but when the market does bad things and it becomes a bad influence on me, I'm not gonna do that part. I'm gonna take the superpowers of the good things that you do, and I'm gonna use that for me. But when you start doing all this gang banging, drug dealing, and all this other crazy stuff, I'm gonna step away because I go to church, okay? And I'm gonna make sure I stay in my green line. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes, okay, amen.
So of these three products, which one would be the most suitable for you?
Yes. Index.
Index. It's the easiest answer that you're gonna get from your clients. Do you think that they understand it fully? Yeah. 100% they know what an index account is. They get the fundamentals. So it's an easy transition to transition to what? Retirement planning. And say, what did you know? Those are keywords. Did you know? So did you know this before? No. Did you know that your product, where does your current retirement sit on this? Did you know this? Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? Open-ended questions to say either yes or no. And then you can take it from there to either schedule an appointment, to close that appointment, or to leverage somebody else to do a rollover for you, to start an IUL for someone, etc., etc. Do you think it's easy for you to present to someone? Yes. Easy peasy. Let's do some hand gestures. How much time do I have? So I started down. So some hand gestures. One of the things that I do is when I start to explain this part right here, they'll start asking questions like, okay, well, what kind of product do I have currently and which line does it fit in? Most people say they have a 401k. It's a very typical product that they offer at your jobs nowadays. 401ks relate to corporations, for-profit organizations. It's on your licensing test. When you're talking about nonprofit organizations, you hear about what type of account? 403Bs. It's the same account. IRS tax code 401, chapter K, that says this. This is what you're gonna do when they ask you that. It says this. Listen, we're gonna take a little bit of the money that you decide on, and we're going to match you that a certain percent, and we're gonna blend it together. You stop. Boom, boom. Thank you, Jennifer and Jonelle. Right? Because with this, we're gonna take you're gonna take the money that you decide on, plus a certain percent that we're gonna contribute as your employer. We're gonna put it together and we're gonna throw it into the stock market with a keyword hopes. Hopes. Get what I'm saying? With a hopes of high return. Why do you think your employer is saying a hopes of high return? They cannot guarantee it. Bingo. they cannot guarantee it. So it's a hope of high return. I have a good friend of mine. I explained this to him, and he says, "Well, I have a 401k. Thank God that we don't do any of that stock stuff. We don't mess with the market." Wait a second, bro. Like, did you know
Right.
that what your job does is what? It takes a portion that you decide to contribute plus a certain percentage, and they blend it together and they throw it into the stock market, most of the time of their choosing,
Right.
with the hopes of high return. So what happens when the stock market does poorly?
You lose.
Your money plus whatever percentage you're contributing goes out the window. Zero, nada. You want a personal story? When I started this business, or right before I started this business, my father-in-law has had over $100,000 in his 401k. So now we're getting hit by 2008, and then the following recessions that happened, and the dip, he lost over $80,000. Wow. Right in the cuff of retirement. I worked for Hostess for 30 years. Right in the cuff of retirement, he goes down to about maybe 20-something thousand.
Wow.
In the few years that he had left of work, maybe it went back up about to maybe 45,000. That's him just contributing excessively. But my father-in-law wound up retiring. We took $25,000 off of his retirement. We put it in this green line for him, and the rest he had to use to live off of. How long is $25,000 gonna last you?
Not even a year.
You really think
Not
about
even.
that? That is a year making $12 an hour for a year. That's it. Paying yourself $12 an hour for that year. Insane. So leverage those stories as well. Now, I know I'm running out of time, but what I want to do is very quickly, like when you're drawing this out to give people a visual, there's different types of learners, right? I gave you the slides, I'm giving you auditory, now I'm giving you some more like physical hands-on. Give yourself a point of origin to give people a visual. This is a napkin, kitchen table presentation, right? So when you're talking about these three lines, okay, the three ways money grows in the bank. Slow, steady, you can guarantee safe. You keep it really close to that 0 point. Boom, yeah, really close. That is your fixed line, right? Now, when we're talking about your variable, like, yeah, you have high growth, so you're gonna be like, boom. But then you have the low lows. You have this. It's kind of like, what does it look like?
EKG.
An EKG, a heart rate. And what does your heart rate do when your money drops? It drops along with it, right? So that's exactly how it happens. Open-ended questions, have your audience participate with you. Now, obviously you can do this in different color markers, however you want to do it, but really easy, you can say, okay, so here's what I'm talking about, index. When the market grows, you get a certain percentage of that, maybe not all of it, but that's okay. When the market tanks, just like I did here, I stay and I keep my money. When this market grows right here, I grow along with it. When it tanks, so now that index grows more like a staircase rather than this roller coaster EKG. This staircase only goes one direction, up. So we can guarantee you no losses. Be careful with your words. We can't guarantee growth, can we?
Right.
But what we can guarantee is no losses. Be very careful with your words. Can your 401k do that? No, because they take a portion of your check and they take a percentage that they contribute, they blend it together and they throw it into the stock market with a what? Hopes of high return. If that doesn't happen, oh well, you took a risk. Do you feel like you can do this over and over and over and over with every client?
Yes,
With anybody
yes.
at a cookout or a kitchen table presentation? This was scribbled all over my notebook over and over and over, easy peasy, because this is a conversation starter. This is like showing people the ABCs of money in such a quick and easy way to say, like, you know what? I know that we can go more in depth, but let's set a time for us to meet. Let's follow up. Let's schedule where we can have a more formal meeting, however you want to say that. But this is a conversation starter. This is something that Glossy taught. I mean, we're in orientation. I learned this from Glossy, Kane, everybody, all these MDs that been up here. I learned three ways money grows over and over. Jennifer and Janelle taught us this, like, so we were like blue in the face. Am I right? Right? Those of us who grew up in good life. This right here got us from trainee to associate to field associate to director to MD. And you know what? We're busting this out again, and we're going back to these fundamentals, and it's going to be SMD, EMD, and eventually to our SVP status and higher. That is my time, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce you to your
good, Angel.
With that being said, I want you to take this into consideration. The next level, the next trainer is going to be going more into detail with retirement, with specific recession points, more in depth. Okay, this is just that conversation starter. This is just that kind of like let me get that flavor. This is the tasting. This next gentleman, leader of LHM, a part of the AAO hierarchy, is going to be breaking down more in depth the retirement process in more details. Feel free to ask more questions. I'm super privileged to be able to be the opening act for the main event. My competitor in business, my brother in business, we grew up in business together, and I'm glad to continue to compete with this individual. Let's see who gets our SMD first.